Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I'll be speaking with Stacey Fournier-Thibodaux. Stacey serves as the president of Cask NX, a leading ServiceNow consulting and implementation partner. Under her leadership, Cask NX drives transformative initiatives for clients leveraging ServiceNow to automate and reshape their business processes, elevate technology strategies, and foster innovative workplace cultures. With over 20 years of experience, she has delivered innovative solutions and operational excellence for Fortune 200 companies while championing strategic growth and customer success. Passionate advocate for women in tech, Stacey is dedicated to empowering the next generation of leaders to thrive in the evolving landscape of the AI era. Welcome to the show, Stacey. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get started. Okay, so as a woman in tech, can you share with us your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, I can share that it was kind of a windy road, honestly. I wasn't, somebody, I'm, gonna date myself here a little bit, but I wasn't somebody that was interested in technology, but I definitely felt like I had a knack for it, just kind of easily understanding new things that were being put out computer-wise, things like that. But actually, I started off my college career with a desire to get into politics and political science. I was pre-law, and in my second year of college, I actually got pregnant. So I became a single mom, and it really put everything that I was trying to do on hold. I started going back to school, and I realized it was just going to take me way too long to get my law degree. So I switched to go to a technical program because really out of necessity, trying to make sure that I could take care of myself and my daughter. And once I got into IT, I fell in love with really, I would just call it like process improvement. And just the idea that there was so much happening in IT from a technology perspective, but people weren't really thinking about the impact of the technology on the business or talking to the business or realizing like what they really needed. It was just more of like, hey, this is the new cool thing. Let's put in that, and I'll put in this, put in that. And I really fell in love with really understanding what the business needed more and spending more time with them throughout different roles in my career. So when I first started in IT, I started on a help desk. I did that for a little while and a couple of different help desks in a couple different technology areas. And then I started getting into really process improvement. I got into service management. And by the time I got to really what was my last corporate job, I was running a global service delivery team, included a help desk. I had an IT service management team. And then I fell in love with the ServiceNow platform, which is a big part of what I do now. Cask does is implement that platform and provide services on that platform. So just kind of holistically starting to figure out at that point how to make things better for users in general, from a production, what's in production, but also what's coming aspect. And it really was for me, the turning point related to my career was be able to go back and say, okay, um, what do I like about this? Is it the technology? Is it the business? Is it the improvement parts? And they all started kind of coming together for me. So that's kind of how I got into technology. But I started growing through leadership. I went back to school, got my degree in IT, went back to school and got a degree in leadership, master's degree in leadership, which is actually, how I started to blend those two worlds together. And then after I left my last corporate company, I went to a ServiceNow Elite partner, which is a consulting company that is checking all the requirements for being the best of the best related to their partners, and fell in love with the business of consulting. Obviously, it's very technical consulting. And then once I left that company, I ended up here at Cask NX. So even though I'm not, actively in a technology role all the time, I still need to use my technology background every single day. And the way I think about both what we do at Cask NX internally as the president of Cask NX, and then externally with our clients and how we help them get what they're looking for. from the services that we offer.
That's amazing. I love that you actually went back to school for
Yes.
IT, for IT. That's very unusual because a lot of women get into technology just by accident, but then, never continue that formal training, which I'm
Yeah.
really glad that you did. That's great. That's
Well,
great.
yeah, I definitely wasn't, once I got into it, I didn't, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love it right away. I had to find what I really liked about
Sure.
it, and really was the achievement that you could give to the business when you did things for them and with them, right?
Yep.
And that
Yep.
part really spoke to me. And I think that was probably, when I was working on a help desk, I found a lot of energy from that, just being able to have that kind of continual achievement. So as I grew in my career, I had to find other ways to kind of get that. You don't get it, real time, but you do get it when you implement processes or tools and things like that can really help people.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Now, I understand you're very passionate about empowering women in tech, especially in the context of AI. Can you share more?
Sure. I mean, I'm passionate about empowering everyone, and of course, women are at the top of my list because I
Right?
grew up in yeah, I grew up in technology, and there weren't a lot of women in tech when I was growing up. I mean, still, obviously, there's a lot of challenges there, and I think, even when I think about where we are at Cask NX, where we have a lot of women, and not just in individual roles, but in some of our leadership team and things like that. I think I thought that things were getting a lot better, but as I went back and did some research recently, it's not that much better, and there's still a lot of challenges there. But I think I've tried to encourage people to get into technology, and women, you know, again, there I think there's a lot of hesitancy there, and that's why like STEM programs and things like that are really important. But I think there's natural skills that some women, not all women, have that really help with things like AI, for example, because there are skills that a lot of people have related to process improvement. Again, getting back to strategies, things like that, and it's maybe a little stereotypical in like a positive way, but women a lot of times have many, many hats that they juggle in their regular lives. And that
Right?
makes them better at process improvement. Even for me, I was just thinking of an example like, why am I making a process improvement to make putting up the Christmas tree faster or something like that, right? Like
Right.
we could
Right.
really, everything you do, you're kind of like, okay, can I get out of the house faster with kids? Can I
Right.
make my grocery shopping easier? Can I do all these things, right? There's so many different things we have to
Always.
balance. So it's
We
like,
always think of that too. We always do. So that's great.
right. We
Yeah.
always do. So it's like that skill set in IT is, I would say, not that common, to be able to think strategy wise and to always, always, always be thinking about, making things mature, and speed with AI especially is just so critical, right?
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
is not,
Continuous improvement
right.
is
And
really, really important. Yep.
I think people think AI is a project or a program, but it's really like a cultural change that
Yeah.
really you think about efficiencies, and it's not replacing humans, just making things more efficient. I think there's a natural inclination for some women, a lot of women, to create strategies and processes around those kind of things, right?
I
There's
agree.
also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
I agree, but I'm also thinking that women have so many qualities that kind of complement what AI and IT are all about. And so I'm really excited for us to chat more so that we can attract more women into this industry.
Yes, I think that, people get nervous about technology because they think it's all, they automatically go, okay, it's coding, right? It's doing like
Right.
infrastructure work, networking, it's, servers and virtual environments and all these things. But ultimately, you have to, even if you kind of erase any concern you have about just hands on keyboard and things like that, if that intimidates you, there's a lot of opportunity to do workshops, write processes, do process design, process improvement, a lot of business analysis skills, reporting. There's a lot of workshops and things like that, facilitation, organizational change management, where you're really, helping an organization take what's being done and driving it into their organization to actually create, cultural change. So there's a lot more than just those roles. Those roles are great too. And if people are naturally inclined and not intimidated to do those, they should absolutely do those. But there are a lot of other roles in and around IT, even in the business. A lot of people would say, oh, it's shadow IT or things like that. But it's really more business people they need to understand IT better because
Absolutely.
yeah, IT is not just, a little nucleus inside of a business or in a vacuum. It's really like everywhere right now. So even if somebody's like, okay, I don't necessarily want to work in IT, you still have to understand really some components of it if you work in, especially some
In
bigger
any
corporation.
in any
Yeah,
areas, because IT is so melded into everything we do, from our refrigerators to our phones to
yeah,
our your everyday life. So I think it's very important. You're absolutely right. So
absolutely.
could you
Agree.
share with us some of your work around digital transformation using the ServiceNow platform?
Absolutely. I mean, if I could just say a little bit about the ServiceNow platform,
Yep.
I don't know if people listening will really know about it, but it's been around for a while. Well, I was in corporate America still prior to going to a ServiceNow partner. I implemented this product back in when I really date myself, 2007, 8, and it was a really new product, but it was one of the first, as far as I was concerned, kind of SaaS solutions, software as a service, and my company at the time was not really doing anything SaaS related, but it was like, hey, this thing is just really, really good at stuff that other products we were using for basically, a lot of people would think of it as like a ticketing system, but it has a lot of power to it. So at the time, I was trying to replace like 4, 5, 6 different systems with this product, and had to go through hell and high water to get our CIO to buy it. We finally got it, and it was a life-changing thing for me. The biggest part was that without having all the disparate systems, the data was more reliable. I was able to like prove points I had related to our business, what I could see happening, and then use it to influence change inside the organization. And that was just something that I really loved doing. I loved doing that work. I did that for 9 years, and was pretty well known in for sure, the Twin Cities area for that kind of innovative work on the ServiceNow platform while they were growing. And then once I left that organization, it was just natural for me to go and work within a company that did consulting on that platform, both implementing the software and the services that kind of come with the platform. So um, because I had done it myself, I was so excited to be able to help other people use that platform to do all kinds of things that were, some small, some very big. And as we know, transformation isn't just about the big, it's about incrementally moving everything to a more digitized, leaner, automated space to create really time and capacity for people to do other things that are more innovative. So it's just kind of getting rid of all of the ick, the old, the inefficient, the stuff that everybody complains about that they hate. You can fix a lot of that on ServiceNow because it's a workflow product, and there's a lot of different modules across it now that are even out of the box able to really change the situation that you may have at your company. So obviously, having worked in elite ServiceNow partners for the last, like I said, almost 9 years, I've seen that now in many, many companies where they have also kind of got on the bandwagon and said, hey, we got to do this too, and we got to do it faster. And ServiceNow does help provide that. I would call it an enablement engine for the right mentality, the right processes, and then you just put it on this product and off you go. So have enjoyed that extensively, and not going back. I mean, I think going forward, the product is just getting more and more capable of doing things even beyond what I ever thought it would be able to do. AI is one of those spaces, adding in lots of features and functionality around that. But again, digital transformation for me, or even transformation in general, is about strategies. It's about mentality. It's about culture. It's about all those things, and then you've got a product like ServiceNow to really run underneath it all and show how quickly you're able to actually make change within your organization.
That's great. Now, I'm not familiar with this platform, how it works, but it sounds amazing. And can you tell me a little bit about how much input you have to do, like when you start, and then how does it
Yeah.
work on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, so ServiceNow is, I always call it, it's kind of like a, I won't say like a pile of clay because it kind of dumps it down a little bit. But what they've done then is they've made different products across the platform. Again, they're all mostly workflow based. So if you think about any kind of Visio or Lucid chart that you might create and say, hey, start here on this, and then, go all the way to the end. If you're at a big company, that process could be super, super complex, right? It could be very, very complicated. It could be multiple teams. It could be a bunch of systems that are integrated. Think about it like a really easy process that's probably everybody knows, like an HR onboarding process, right? People go, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna get a user ID, I'm gonna get a employee ID, I'm gonna get paid, I'm gonna get the computer, I'm gonna get, and it sounds fairly easy, but a lot of times behind the scenes, there's things like an IT department, a facilities team that's gonna give you a desk, an HR team, payroll, any kind of compensation benefits, and all those things you don't really want to expose to your employees, or in some cases could be even a customer process. So you want to lean those things out, you want to make them really simplified, and then you can put those steps into a platform like ServiceNow, and then it will just kind of run all that for you, assigning different things to different people. It could have dependencies where don't do this until the last step is has happened, or do these two things in tandem, but then wait for this thing. So it has a lot of that. But out of the box, if you don't have things that are super complicated like that, you can do a lot of that stuff yourself.
Right.
There is a lot of functionality, and they have a lot of releases as well of new functionality. It's something that's really nice about having a SaaS platform. Obviously, they just like apps on your phone, they can release new functionality, improve functionality anytime they are ready to do that. You can accept that into your environment and then take on that functionality or not. So, back to kind of your question, if you're maybe a smaller company, you can get ServiceNow and you can probably implement it pretty well yourself, at least some initial iterations of it, as long as you've got the right, mentality, the right processes and the right motions to be able to do that. Or if you're kind of a little bit bigger company or you have some complexities, you've got some disparate systems, you need some integrations, things like that, you're probably going to hire somebody like Cask NX to come in and help you make sure that you get that right.
Great. I love it. That's great. I love the onboarding example that you gave because it makes so much sense. There's so many pieces to that. And you want to make sure every piece gets done. So if you input it into the system and then it goes and sends it out to whoever is responsible for that task, it's great. It's almost like a project management type software.
Yes, and it actually does have project management software in it
Okay.
as well. So yes, lots of functionality we could go into if we had more time. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just such a nice tool.
No, I think that's great. Okay, so as you know, this podcast is focused around bridging the culture, pay, and employment gap for women in tech. What are you seeing in the industry today from your lens?
Yeah, I'm kind of just trying to think through some of that because obviously, one of the things that's really important to me is just equality in pay. It always has been. I think one of the tenets of who I am as a person comes from, not really being raised with money. Even in the situation I mentioned where, I was a single mom, I spent about 18 months on welfare. I lived in subsidized housing. I just didn't grow up in an environment that was, my parents had a lot of extra income. They didn't have the ability to monetarily help me, although they helped me a lot, otherwise. So when I think about, my own career and making sure that I'm going out and advocating for myself and getting what makes sense for me, I always want to make sure that other people have that, right? And not everybody's comfortable advocating for themselves, and I think that's part of the issue is that we don't always question what we're being compensated with, and we don't always ask for more information about that, right? And I think, women, unfortunately, there's still a big compensation gap out there. I think when I think about my own self as the president of Cask NX US team, which is a huge team, we have compensation ranges, things like that. We try to make sure people are in those ranges. But I also always try to get people to advocate for themselves because it's also incredibly personal, and people should feel comfortable having those kind of conversations. But it's definitely still a problem.
Yeah, I
Both,
agree.
yeah,
I think the advocating for themselves, women just don't do it well. They don't do it
yeah,
continuously. They're always kind of shy about that. They'll be like, oh, they should see that I'm worth it. And
yeah.
no, you have to advocate for yourself. And I think that's the difference, one of the big differences between men and women. So I think that's something we have to learn.
Jennifer,
Absolutely.
I that comment is really resonating with me. So I thank you for that because I do think it is something where we women a lot of times do expect to be recognized. And women work really, really hard just in their general lives too. And we kind of always we're waiting for
Right.
that moment, and we have to just go and take it. I think in the same way, even in our personal lives, we have to be able to also advocate for ourselves, making sure that we have boundaries, right? We have self-care, we take breaks and things like that. I think it's a good point just in general that women,
Self-care. Yeah, it's very
yeah, we
good.
should we can't wait for other people because they're not going to come and tell us, hey, you're
It's
awesome
time
all
for
the
you to
time.
take a break. Yeah. Yep.
Right.
So true, so true. I think that's really what we're seeing too in the gap that there is today. It's still just from our own personal selves. And I had talked to one of my co-leaders in a different company, but I had said, what do you see that women lack so that I can kind of bring that to their attention more? And he said, you never advocate for yourself. He said,
Yeah.
we come in and we're like, oh, you did a great job. This was so great. And they're like, oh, thank you. But that's it. And I
Yeah.
think they should be advocating for themselves continuously. And I said, yes, absolutely. So I think he
Mhm.
was spot on and you're spot on, right on that. Yep.
I love it. And I think, and to interestingly, we're always really good about advocating for other people. We
Right,
like to,
right.
we love to take care of other people and we like to make sure that they're okay, but
Yep.
we need to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah, that's true. And self-care is so important as well. And we don't do that well. And I was really happy this year to hear my daughter say that, this year I'm going to focus on me because that's my New Year's resolution. I said, good for you, because we need to do more of that. And the younger generations are starting to build self-care into their routines, which is really important. And I think, that will go a long way.
I totally agree with that as well. And I think even when I hear you say that about your daughter, I'm like, okay, how is she doing it, right? Like, what's her bulleted list? Because if we're
Yeah.
not specific about how, we won't do it.
Right. I think sleep with 3 kids, she's sleep deprived, definitely.
Yes,
So
I mean,
sleep is one
yeah,
way, and
y-
obviously nails and massages and whatever
yes,
makes her happy, right? I mean, she has to do things that make her happy. That's it.
uh, totally. I'm happy that she was able to make that. I hope you help her stick to it. Hold her
I
accountable
will.
to
I
her
will.
goal.
Yes, yes, I will. And so far, so good, but
Good.
still very early. It's only the mid-January.
Exactly.
So it'll take a little bit. Yep, that's great. All right. I know you're deeply committed to helping women succeed in tech, especially in the AI era. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, I mean, I think to that point, again, I don't think AI is a program or a project. It's definitely a culture shift, and I think it's an opportunity to lead from that perspective. I think we definitely women can lead in the front of that. I think I am a change agent. I enjoy change. It's not everybody's jam. Definitely, I know I can be a little bit exhausting to people because I'm always like, hey, what's
Yep.
the next thing? Where are we going? What's around the corner? What are we iterating to? But the idea that AI is really about removing friction between ideas and execution. It's a really powerful tool to kind of get into the detail and move more quickly, and you have to. I found recently, one of the things I noticed in the way I speak is I'm always talking about doing things faster, but I think I've always done that. So AI is supernatural for me. Like, yeah,
Right.
like we should just get that, and we should just do more related to this, and elevate the people part. And again, I think back to the point we just made about women, it's like we're good at taking care of people, and AI does elevate the people part, right? It
Right.
really pushes, the create like the creation part, the connection part, the leadership part up, and pushes the repetitive part down. And I think that's a
Right.
place where women shine.
Yeah, I think that's so true with the repetitive. That's what it's going to replace. Things that we just do like a robot, that's what it's going to take away. And I'm so glad
Absolutely.
because we can use our brains and we can really shine in front of people by
Yes.
doing the right things. And AI, I use Chat GPT all the time. And I will tell you, it has sped up my processes for just finding out or writing a letter or, and then I change it and tweak
Yeah.
it, but it gives
Oh
me that
yeah.
start. Yeah, it really gets me started. So I love that. And I love that you said you love change because I love change and I don't know a lot of people that love change. So, so I'm glad you
I
said that.
I'm with you. I think people get so nervous about it, but it's a necessity. It's not really optional, right? So the more that you kind of get out of that, I would call it get more into a growth mindset,
Right,
because growth
right.
growth isn't really just about change, but it's about learning, and it's about not being kind of set in your ways. So it's like, if you're learning, what's the next thing that you would do? You'd apply it. And with
Yeah,
the
and being
application,
curious. Being
yeah.
curious is very important in growth. Yeah.
Well, and the application part is really what looks like change, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's great. That I love your thinking around growth and change and all of those things. Also, you're passionate about women initiatives throughout your career. Can you highlight for us some of them that come to mind?
yeah, I mean, throughout my career, I mean, I think, interestingly, I've worked in both IT, and I've worked around sales. Sales is another area that really doesn't have women in it really much at all.
Right,
You know,
right, right,
and it's interesting over time, when I've worked in sales, or I've worked with salespeople. It's like I've had opportunities to discuss this topic in a lot of different forums, and just kind of bring awareness to those things. I appreciate being around, honestly, a lot of men who also cared about this a lot, and
right.
that helps so much from a beyond representation. Just people that are also looking around, and it's like, why is it all us? Why is it all dudes? And
Right.
and those people, for me to have been in leadership, have those people come to me as well and saying, hey, what can we do for both, women in tech and women in sales, and think about how to do more with it. I mean, I think about, a lovely account executive that we have at our company right now, who I just appreciate so much how she sets her own boundaries. And
Right.
she had a baby. Oh, I think he just turned 1. And right after she had him, we were doing something where we were going to be traveling to a client. And I said to her, like, how are you going to feel about leaving your baby? And she's like, oh, I'm not leaving him. He's coming with me. And I'm thinking, okay, how is she going to do that? And then she brought, a friend of her family that she's been using as a nanny. She had them in her hotel room, and I thought, oh, this is so different than kind
So
of how you think
different.
about,
Yep.
yeah. And it was interesting because we were at this hotel, and I come down to have breakfast, and one of the clients, the CIO at this company that we work with, is in the lobby because he's also in from out of town. He's staying at the hotel, and he's standing there talking to her, holding her baby.
Oh, wow.
And it was
Yep.
just the coolest thing, because he's just,
That is very cool. Yep.
in his real life, he's a dad, he's, going to be a
It's
grandpa
life.
at some point, right?
Yeah, it's
It
life.
has,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was just like such a cool thing to be able to experience her just setting her own course, and thinking about that. And then as we have a lot of women in our more technical roles, but even as we think about attracting more women from a sales perspective, she's like the first person I'm like, hey, can you get on the phone with this person and talk to them about some of the things you do? Because I do like the idea of people just setting their own tone and changing how, it's thought about, rather than what, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. And, I think in my past early on, I would have tried to follow the norm or fit in, or, think about it the kind of that way. And it's like, we don't have to do that. We can beat a different drum and still, fit in with a band, you know? So I think,
No, that's great.
yeah. So I mean, probably most of what I've done has been around, just being in the right rooms, being able to speak with people. One of the biggest problems I know that women have when they think about just even going into tech or staying in tech. I mean, people leave tech all the time too, is they don't
Right.
have a mentor, they don't have a coach, they don't have somebody that's visible that they can look at it and say, hey, you know, that person inspires me, or can I ask you a question, or how did you
Right.
do
Well, there's
that?
nobody to model, yourself
No,
after. Yep.
no, absolutely. So I think just being that person too has been really important for me, to make sure that I'm that person. And I try to lead as much as I can with authenticity, and I try to show I'm pretty transparent about who I am. So I think when that appeals more when it comes to women, and hopefully encourages them to also do that and not worry that much about what people think about it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love your thought process around that. So as the president of Cask, can you actually lead a team that is at the forefront of IT and digital transformation,
Yes.
especially through the ServiceNow platform? Given your extensive experience in this space, how do you see the role of women in tech evolving, particularly in the context of AI advancements?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, just like I said before, I think one of the things, so I would just articulate is, Cask NX is an elite ServiceNow partner. So we're one of the only consulting companies in basically the entire country that only does ServiceNow consulting. So a lot of like the big consulting companies will do it, be like a part of their business, but it's not going to be the holistic part. So what we attract from a employment perspective is people who are really passionate about the platform. Many of them having seen the benefits of the platform and having done this themselves in their own careers, they're stepping over to Cask NX to be continue that on, just like I did, right, in the story I kind of told earlier. And so those folks really know how to do that and lead with the product itself. Whereas if you think about a different type of consulting company that just a piece of what they do is ServiceNow, they might be like, oh, well, we could also use, Oracle, or, SAP or something else for some of that. But there's really things that ServiceNow that either are unique to ServiceNow or also complementary to some of those other systems that they might not really know about. There could be gaps in those other systems.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
our approach when we come into a client is really to understand their business problem really well before we just turn on the software, right? I would say you could go in and just like turn on every light switch in your house, but then what are you doing in that room, right?
Right,
So the
right.
idea is really like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? We do a lot of kind of discovery with the client. We design their solution, obviously taking advantage of what's out the box, but then also trying to figure out where they're really trying to get to and how far they're trying to go, at least in the work that we're doing with them. And then doing whatever we can humanly possible to make that goal, that dream, that outcome come true. And again, it's not just going to be like, oh, here's the software. I mean, just again, think of an analogy about something on your phone. If you put a fitness app on your phone, it doesn't mean you're going to exercise, right? It just means you put an app on your phone. So even turning on this very robust product, you still have to exercise, right? You still have to do the work around it to implement your processes and things on it. So that's again the transformative part. It's not just, obviously turning on software, but it's like getting in there, understanding the current state, future state, timeline, strategies. Is everybody on the same page? Stakeholders, are we good to go? Do we have things that we need to go and remedy? Are there things that are going to get in the way? Are there things that are blocking transformation? And working closely with that client is something that that we do, every single day. So that
Well,
is,
how do you see women coming into your consulting practice?
yeah, I mean, I think when I got to the company, we didn't have as many women. I think, especially in leadership, my executive team is 13 people, and probably at least half are women. And that was something I was able to do earlier this year. Saw a very talented group of people. Just a lot of them happen to be women's, kind of sitting in that associate
Right,
director
right.
role.
Just the right person, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's interesting because I've got a person who runs a transformation area, enterprise transformation area, who is a woman who's been at the company a long time. She's been doing this a long time. I've got another woman who runs our business technologies, who's got this fabulous background with uh, customer centricity, really having done customer experience for a extensive career running this business experience area. I've got somebody that's got a ton of experience with um, strategic portfolio management now over our both our project management organization and an area of the platform that is a lot about strategy, portfolio management, understanding costs of your organization, and just having those key people pulling up in the organization and really leading with that passion has been just incredible to watch. And I'm not even covering the whole group. I it's hard for me not to just talk about every single person, but I'm just giving some examples of people that in and around the company that are just working with clients and helping them every single day.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's how I did it with my company too. I hired the right person for the job. It didn't really matter if they were women or men, but
yes,
then I found where women are better because you end up hiring more of them for that role. So it's really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
I think one of the things too of having a diverse team, and we have lots of lovely gentlemen on the team as well, but it does add a level of women are a little more likely to you know talk through things, and not just kind of sit and tolerate. And so things that are silos and things that start to come down more, I would say there's a little more alignment, there's a little more push for clarity. They're maybe not as quick to just kind of stuff things in. They're more apt to, especially with the right environment and having psychological safety available. And that helps because I'm actually in the middle of my quarterly offsite right now, and we're talking. We have like a 5 day. I just took a break to talk to you, but we're when we get to the beginning of it, we ask everybody, hey, what's working, kind of not working about what's going on right now. And pretty much the whole group is like, what's working is this group, right? Our
Yeah,
ability to
yeah.
get on the same page, to talk to each other, to collaborate. And I think, having a bit more diversity in our executive team really contributes to that. And then it sets the tone for the rest of the organization to be collaborative, to be that way, right? And then our consultants go out and they are used to that, and then they do that with our clients, and that feels a lot more natural. It's not like when you have a consulting company show up and there's shoulder pads and know-it-all kind of mentality. It's more like, hey, this is somebody that's going to come and be part of my team, and they're going to help us. And it's
Right,
just a
right.
it's a different feeling. So starting with the top and trying to set that mentality, set the values that way, I think ultimately is just good for business.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we talk about women a lot, but really all your answers apply to women and men. It doesn't matter,
Yes.
so it's for both genders. So that's great. So the AI era is increasingly impacting every sector, including tech. How do you see AI shaping the future of IT and digital transformation? And how can women in tech stay ahead of the curve to lead in these new technology advancements? What advice would you give to women who are eager to embrace AI and innovation in their careers?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of more of what I was saying earlier is
Yep,
important. Not being
advocate for
afraid.
themselves. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and not being afraid of the technology. There's so many different options for AI right now, right? Obviously, some of the big, Microsoft and other things are, top of mind for people. But it's only really as good as what you put into it. And
Right.
so, understanding it, understanding what's working, not working about it. Obviously, there's a lot of security implications around it. So, making sure that we understand our policies and procedures related to what we ask it, what we're telling it, what we're putting into public AI tools versus intercompany AI
Right.
tools, and then being able to really be more planful about how we're evolving those tools and for what business purpose. And
No, that's right.
if you don't have a strategy, if you have a bad strategy and you're trying to use AI, or you have bad data or no data, you don't have any knowledge, you don't have any documents, or only inaccurate or old information, it's not going to help. So it's like there's a lot there that more around the planning and cleanup and really, getting things prepared to be able to start to accelerate. That's really important too. So there's a lot of different layers that really anybody can contribute to, but my main advice would be just to be really open-minded and curious about what's out there, and then help your organization try to figure out how to make an actual plan just to get started, and then thinking about those cultural pieces that come along with that.
Thank you for that. That's really good. And you said, the open-mindedness, the curiosity, plan your strategies. And one thing you said that was so important is AI is no good without data. If you don't
Yes,
have good data, forget it. You don't have an AI. So that's something for everybody to remember, good
right.
data is the foundation of a good AI system. So
I think
great, great,
people
great.
I think people think of AI a lot when they think of ChatGPT, right? And we
Right,
all like to use ChatGPT, and it goes out and looks at the internet, but a lot of the tools that are inside of companies don't do that, right? And
right, right.
they're really looking at what's on your drives, what knowledge bases you have, which policy documentation you have, and that kind of thing. So if all of that is not great, you're not going to get good answers, and you could get
Right.
outdated answers as well, and
Yeah,
stuff
no,
that's
that's very
irrelevant
true.
or wrong,
And
right?
ChatGPT, I know a lot of companies are creating their own internal ChatGPT with
That's
all the
right.
data they have, which is so powerful. That's great.
I know. Yeah, I
Yes,
love it.
thank you for that. All right. So Stacy, this next question is more personal, and it's a little bit selfish on my part because I love to hear about travel. And so where have you traveled to and why? What's your most favorite place that you've
All right.
traveled to and why?
Sure. I want to give a two-part answer. So recently I took a really, amazing trip to South Africa. I went to Cape Town with my
Okay.
daughter, my oldest daughter. She was actually going for work, so I came as her plus one. So we spent a few
Okay.
days kind of doing this conference and things, and then we were able to go and explore. And it is the most beautiful place, and the people are so nice.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I have
It,
to add that
but
one to my list.
it was one of those things I took pictures of that I was like, I don't even want to take a picture because I can't capture what my eyes are seeing. It was just
Wow.
so beautiful with mountains, green mountains, lots of, obviously sea, ocean,
And,
animals.
and I
It
know
was
the
just
people there are wonderful.
if I could move there, I would.
Yeah,
But it's so far. It took so long to get there.
I
While I was there,
know.
I left a little piece of my heart there. But the one of the main places I go all the time is the Dominican Republic. I love
Ah,
to go to the
okay.
Dominican. My husband and I go every single year. And this year
Another one on
in
my list.
oh, you haven't been?
I have not been, so I'm
Oh,
going to hopefully go to Punta Cana this year.
oh, you have to go. We're actually going March 6th, actually March 9th. My husband and I are going to be renewing our vows there after
Nice,
20 years. And we're
nice.
bringing,
Congratulations.
thank you, we're bringing our immediate family. So that is a place that's very near and dear to my heart. I love it there, and excited to show our family more about this place that we've traveled so many
So
times.
why do you love it so much? Tell me.
The people. I'm a people person, so I always love all the people everywhere I go. But it's just it's that happy place to relax, as you can imagine. With my career, I have work top of mind pretty much all the time, and the speed I run at work is kind of the way I run in other areas of my life. I'm on a board. I like to work out a lot. I have 4 kids. I have, there's a lot
That's
going on.
going on.
So
Yep, yep.
yeah, it's a place that I go to really
Good.
decompress. It takes me a couple days to get there,
Yep.
and then just kind of the pace of like being able to slow down and enjoy. I love the ocean. I love water so much, and just being around it, and it smells and things like that. The way that it makes you feel is top notch for me. I just love it there.
Amazing. I hope my feelings are very similar because I feel exactly like that about Cabo. I
Yes.
love Cabo San Lucas and I feel that way about Cabo, but I'm looking for a new place as well. So I can't
Mhm.
wait to go to Dominican now. That's
Oh,
great. Thank you. Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you. So this was truly an honor, Stacy. Thank you for taking the time for chatting with us. Please share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. That is really the easiest way.
Yep. Okay.
And maybe you can link to my LinkedIn, but you can look me up under Stacey Fournier-Thibodaux, and it says SFT. A lot of people just call me by my acronym of my name. And so when you see me out there, you see SFT, you'll know that you got to the right one. Send me a message, and I will connect with you.
Great. Well, thank you again. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.